Hello. This is Donna Reiners. How are you? I would say it's a beautiful day, but it's a little gloomy. Of course, perspective, right? Perspective. Anyway, I felt like coming on live. I believe I have something to encourage someone with. And so I came unannounced to do that. Do the wave. I'm going to share a couple things with you. I wrote on the description, hold on, let me look at exactly what I wrote. One moment, please. One moment, please. One moment, please. Yes, indeed. There we go. I said, believing in you makes the difference, right? Believing in you makes a difference. Rest. Rising, expecting supernatural tenacity, and then jump. And I don't know about you, but the last however many months I had been in a season of great, I felt like I was being pushed. Now, I don't mean being pushed around. That's not what I mean. I felt like I was being just pushed, just gently prodded, gently encouraged, gently guided, but firmly guided, strongly guided, consistently guided, tenaciously guided. And you know, there gets to a point where you feel like that direction, that way you're moving is almost like you're in a current. And when you're in that current, you have no choice but to go with the current, because if you fight against the current, you tire yourself out, you could possibly drown, and it's exhausting. And so I knew I couldn't fight against it, and then I recognized, honestly, that I'd had that current before years ago, and I fought against it then. And I got exhausted then. And I tired myself out so much that I gave up, and I turned back. Now, I don't remember exactly when that was, but it was years ago. But it was inside me to remember, hey, I've felt this before. I have felt this prodding. Have you ever felt prodded? Have you ever felt like you had limited choices? I just want you to think for a moment. I want you to consider for a moment. Do you feel like you've ever been in a place where you had limited choices? Just think for a second with me. Maybe it was a time when you were going to go to school. Maybe it was a time when there was something else happening in your life and you had no idea what you were going to do, but you knew it was very specific, and you knew something was happening, and you knew you needed to go with it. Well, that was kind of like this was. I knew that I needed to go. And so I felt that prodding, and I felt that pushing, and I felt that thing. And I knew that it was strength, and I knew that it meant great change, and I knew that it meant a strong direction. And honestly, it scared me. Honestly, I wondered, am I really up for this? Am I up for the strength of this current? Am I up for the strength of where this is going to take me? Am I up for the endurance it's going to take to stay in this particular stream, in this water, in this, it's not turmoil. It's a current. You ever been like on the Guadalupe River or something? or on some kind of a river where the current's going real fast, and you're actually in one of those boats, and you're going and you have to have your paddle out because it just keeps you from the rocks. Well, just imagine yourself physically in something, and you are physically needing to swim with the current. And then you realize, well, why am I swimming? The current's moving. I just need to go with it. So you just kind of let go and you go with the current. And if you notice, when you've been in those kind of waters before, if you ever have, there are rocks that come, but because the water's been on those rocks so long, those rocks are smooth now. And it's unlikely for you to run into something while you're in that current that isn't also moving. And so here, anyway, the current, in the current, and you're flowing and you're going and you're trying to fight against it without meaning to. And then you really realize, wait, I just need to let go and I need to rest. I just need to go with this flow. It did change something inside me when I made the decision to just go with that flow. But it still requires that I keep my head above water. It still requires some strength from my actual physical body. It does require some strength. It's not like I'm just like doing the back, the back float on a simple, silent, peaceful water. It's really not like that. It's the current's flowing. So my response is, can I go with that flow and not be afraid? And so I did decide to go with the flow. And so in that place of rest, I'm needing to strengthen myself. I'm needing to stay hydrated. I'm needing to take care of matters on a regular basis that I hadn't taken care of before. I'm needing to govern in a way I haven't governed before. I'm needing to pay attention to some things like I've never paid attention before. Because now all of a sudden, this flow requires it. This place of water requires that I be more attentive, even though it's the current. The current is taking me, and the current is the one driving. So, my thought was to rise expectantly, expecting supernatural tenacity, and then to jump. And so what I meant by rise, I wasn't physically rising. I was supernaturally rising, going, okay, I'm supernaturally rising with the expectation that I'm going to have supernatural tenacity to stay in this flow and to not try to get out of the water and not try to swim to the side and not just give up and drown, which could always be an option for someone if they have fear hit them. And so going with the flow, with that expectancy, and somehow on the inside deciding, well, I've got to jump. And so what I did was, I jumped. I jumped in this water on purpose. And I have to tell you, at first, like I said earlier, I wasn't so calm, and I wasn't so, oh, it's going to be okay. I was more like, what the hey? What have I decided? Have I lost my mind? Was this really the right decision? Was I hearing correctly? All those things were going on. And so what I've come to is this, that there's a place of rest even when there's stress. And in that place of tension, there's a place where we can respond in a different way so that we don't have the stressful part. So there is tension that comes when you're building a new muscle, when you are learning a new skill, when you are studying in a different way, when you're exercising part of your brain you've never exercised before. There is a tension and there's a timing. And so in that place of tension, what will keep it from turning into stress is deciding not to strive, but instead decide to rest. Decide to go with the flow. Maybe while you're along the way, you're strengthening your arms because you're moving them. You're maybe kicking your feet somewhat, but you're staying afloat. You're not going under. And learn how to navigate as the flow takes you where the river is going. Because you know you want to be in the river. You know you don't want to not be in the river. You'll be miserable if you're not in the river. You'll totally be miserable. So don't strive, but rest. Find the place of rest in the flow. Also, remember that when something comes to want to rob you, to cause you to be anxious, to cause you to lose your peace, that it's really your opportunity to rise. It's your opportunity to rise and expect a supernatural tenacity. It's your response to the anxiousness, your response to the lack of peace, your response to the calamity, the adversity, the pressure, the overpowering, the want to shut down or the want to run away. It is your supernatural response that determines whether you are responding out of a place of rest or you're responding out of a place of being stressed. So it's rest or stressed. And learning how to rest. Sometimes it doesn't happen just like that. Sometimes you have to practice rest while you're on the way to learning how to not be stressed. And so it's a place of growth. So instead of running away, instead of avoiding, you embrace the moment and take a deep breath and decide how to respond to a circumstance and decide how to respond to someone's remark to you and decide how to respond to what's happened to someone else around you. Decide how you're going to respond. The other day, I totally failed this test. I was on the phone with someone and they were talking poorly about someone I know really well. They were talking poorly about someone that they knew years and years ago and who they decided to criticize and judge there today based on what they were 20 years ago. And I'm certain this person doesn't want to be judged like that themselves. However, I lost my cool. Basically told them to sit down and shut up, which isn't normally my jam. But that's how far I'm not developed in that area that I lost my own cool and basically just said, I'm not listening, and I hung up the phone. That wasn't the kind thing to do. That wasn't the righteous thing to do. That was not the mature thing to do. Could I have hung up the phone? Yes, I really could have. However, where I erred was me losing my cool. That's where I erred. Sometimes you do need to just disconnect with someone if they are truly being that unkind with their mouth or whatever towards someone else. But in that case, my losing my cool was not cool. And so that moved me in a place of stress. So I had to come out of that stress privately and personally. And the next day, I apologized to them. They wanted to have a conversation, and they're talking, texting, and I'm like, no, I just apologized and went on with life because I don't agree. And so we're just going to have to choose to disagree, and I'm just going to have to rock on. Does that make sense? Sometimes you just have to rock on. Sometimes you just have to move forward. Sometimes you just have to not be bitter in your heart and not be resentful in your heart. And that's the place where you choose to grow in that area instead of just avoiding it altogether. You grow in that area so that you're not stressed, but you're making a decision out of a place of rest. And it's not a snap decision. It's something you choose. So in these difficulties we face, there are places that are hidden for us so that we can grow, so that we can mature, so that we can have the inheritance that's ours, and not just the crumbs underneath the table that we think that's all we deserve, or we think that that's all we can reach, or we think that that's all we really can have because that's all we've worked for. Sometimes there's more. There's things hidden for us, not from us, so that we can reach inside in that place of rest and receive more than we've received before. Also, remembering to trust. Trusting is a huge factor in the place of rest. Like when I sat down in this chair, I really expected it to hold me. I did. I didn't even think about it. But that's a place of trust. I expect when I pick up my toothbrush every day to brush my teeth that it's going to I'm going to be able to brush my teeth with it. I expect the water to come on when I turn the faucet on. Those sound like really simple, silly things, but that's really the action of trust. The action of trust is the expectation. And it may not be specific. Like today, our internet went down. I wasn't looking for that. I need my internet. We all pretty much live, some of us make our living by using the internet. And so, reach for my internet and it wasn't there. I still reached for it. And then I had to get in the closet and figure out what the hey happened to my internet and get someone to troubleshoot with me on the phone because I couldn't trust my internet because my internet went down. You know, sometimes things happen, things seem to falter, and sometimes we just have to figure it out. We have to work it out and not just shut it out and not just shut down from it and give up and say, well, no, I can't do it, or no, it's not going to work, or no, that's too hard. Sometimes we have to just really convince ourselves, wait, no. I'm going to rise, expecting supernatural tenacity because of that living inside of me and me having access to it for it to flow from me. But if you just give up, and if you just turn back, and if you just give in to those thoughts inside that say, well, I really can't do that, or, I'm not up for that, I don't want to do that. It doesn't matter. Lack of entitlement, it doesn't matter. Lack of entitlement is just as bad as I deserve it, I want it, and I want it now. Because that makes you run over people. Entitlement just, you overpower people with, I can have it and I can have it right now, so get the heck out of my way. That's not kind either. Lack of entitlement is, I don't need it, I don't want it, I don't have to have it. You go ahead. You can run over me all you want. That's lack of entitlement. That's equally as unhealthy. And in the flow, you don't have either one. In the flow, in the current, in the strength of the current, you're just going. And you're not wasting energy. You're not wasting energy regretting. You're not wasting energy being sorry you jumped in. You're not wasting energy thinking things would be better if they were different. Instead, you're receiving the presence and the water that you're in, so you can learn and you can grow and you can move forward and you can mature and you can have the inheritance that's really yours that you've not ever had before. Sometimes there is an inheritance for us and we haven't had it before, so we don't know what it looks like. We don't know what to expect. So we just need to have an expectancy. There was a pastor years ago named Bob Phillips, and he used to talk about expectancy versus expectation. And he used to talk about how if we would have an expectancy, just a joyous, something good is going to come. Instead of it's going to happen this way and this way and this way, and it's going to happen A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going to turn left, right, up, down. It's going to be just like this. That expectation you can be sadly disappointed by thinking that all your ducks have to be just like this and you have to have them just like this. And then you definitely will be stressed when it doesn't happen exactly the way you want it to. And so the expectancy of, this didn't work out, but there's something else coming that's going to work out. That's a good thing. Some people, I know people that have said to me, well, I've just decided not to be excited about anything because then I don't get disappointed. And so what they do is they're building themselves up to just not expect anything. And so they have to have something big to happen for them to get excited. It has to be something that comes with complete breakthrough in order for them to be excited and feel like, yay, it was worth it. But then all the time they could have had built that equity with God and the presence of God, receiving something good coming along the way. It's not there. So, I was thinking about this and thinking about a bicycle and thinking about riding a bicycle and how sometimes we start out with training wheels. What if we had somebody teaching us to ride a bike and they're like, yeah, you'll figure it out. Just go ahead, try. Go ahead. Yeah, it'll be okay. That's not very fun. But what if you have a parent or a sibling or a friend, they're going, okay, let's try. Come on, it's going to be fun. It's going to be good. Even if you fall down, even if for some reason your training wheels don't work and you plop over, even in that place, if they're that kind of person encouraging you, they'll be like, oh, it's okay. Let's put it back together. Let's just keep on going. It'll still be a place of expectancy versus a place of expectation where you will be disappointed if you think it's going to happen just one way. This is what I want and this is how I want it, and that's the end of it. Bam. Well, then what about all this other that you could have had with God? Instead, you just want this and you want to get it over with and go on with life. There are times when the waiting on the Lord is the most important part of any relationship. And being in the flow, being in the current, and letting God build you. Yes, ma'am, I will do that. Yes, ma'am, I will do that. Letting God build you, letting God strengthen you, letting God, when you have these challenges that come that make you uncomfortable, that make you anxious, that make you feel like you're a loser or feel like you're a failure or feel like you're less than, when those things come, those obstacles come, if you will stop and choose the opposite emotion from that if you'll choose, like let's say somebody shuts you down, just shut up, okay? And let's say in that place of shut up, inside of you, let's say that person has no right to tell you that. Well, nobody does, but you get my point. Inside where that rises up to just shut down, for you to just shut up. Instead, if you'll practice taking a deep breath and just standing. Start with just standing. You don't have to start with telling them, no, you shut up. Instead, you can just start with standing. Just start with breathing. Start with staying in a place where you are not being pushed down and you're not being pushed away. Because those emotions can rule you and reign in you, and they can cause you not to be able to hear while you're in this current. If you are in this current and you start to strive and you start to be afraid, drowning is not on God's agenda. And we think when something bad happens, it's because God caused it. Sometimes we have to take a deep breath and we have to just regroup. We just have to regroup, y'all. Because it's not necessarily from goodness that something bad happens. And so learning how to respond in the good times and the bad times, in the anxiousness and in the stress, learning how to respond from a place where you can breathe again, a place of rest, where you train yourself to respond out of rest. If you came out of a really emotional background, it might be difficult for you to respond out of a place of rest to any situation, whether good or bad. So teaching yourself and training yourself to stop and find the peace and the rest in that moment of adversity, in that moment of confusion, in that moment where it seems like you're going to drown, or you're not going to make it, or somebody else is going to drown, somebody else is not going to make it. Taking a deep breath and rising expectantly, expecting supernatural tenacity to be yours, for you to stand in a place of strength, for you to stand in a place where you know that 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 it really is going to be okay. That you're going to be okay. That it's going to be okay. That they're going to be okay. Sometimes you have to grab a hold of the okay before you manifest okay. Sometimes you have to convince your heart that everything's okay, though you don't feel like everything's okay. It's part of the rest, part of the rising, expectantly, supernaturally, grabbing hold of that tenacity that lives inside of you already. But if you haven't done it, if you haven't learned it, it feels so new. It feels like a brand new pair of shoes, you know? Feels like you may not even know what to do. But you can lean into the one inside of you who lives from rest in that oneness to know what to do. To trust. To begin to be consistent in your trusting so that you build a road in the area of trust. You build some equity in the area of trust so that rest is yours and peace is yours, no matter what's happening. Am I able to do that all the time? No, I'm not. But I'm learning. I'm learning on this journey. I'm learning. I've come a long way, baby. And I've helped others come a long way. That's part of what we're supposed to do on the planet. Help one another. And just love one another. Be at peace with one another. And rock on with each other. Anyhow, lean on, trust, and be confident. Rising, expecting, supernatural tenacity. That's my acronym for rest today. And to train that part of you, to do that consistently enough so that that's what rises up instead of the stress. And that's what rises up instead of the distress, instead of the sickness, instead of the anger, instead of the shutdown, instead of the runaway, instead of, oh my God, what am I going to do? Instead of the anxiousness that wants to tear you apart or torment you. And you take the ground just one little step at a time, one little step at a time, one little step at a time, until it's yours. And then you get to work on something else. That's just how it works. Anyway, I bless you today. This is Donna Reiners. I just wanted to encourage some people in the journey. Stay in the water. Let the rest in the strength of the current keep you. Let it keep you. Just go with that flow. And it'll be okay. Because you're okay. And I'm okay. And we're okay. And it's going to be okay. Share this with a friend if it encouraged you. Until soon, this is Donna. Bye-bye.